I was a go big or go home kind of person.
Yeah.
I remember leaving that session, I'm like, this is what I was meant to do. But in that moment, I was like, this is it. I'm addicted. The trauma is, I learned I will never do this again. So by doing it, you invariably change. If it goes well, we're correcting for these experiences. If it doesn't go well, we're just reactivating these experiences. But if we do it and we start small, really small baby steps, those baby steps cumulatively add up to getting back to that moment before you had fear. It doesn't matter how many times I watch Tom Cruise hang off the side of an airplane. I will never know how to do that. If I ever wanted to though, I have to start with confronting my fear of heights. Even DiCaprio needs multiple takes to win an Oscar. And even if you're the best actor in the world, or you have to be the best actor in the world to be able to fake this level of deep emotion. What do you think will help the relationship goals more? Tapping into this clear signal, or engaging them at the level where one person can be right and one person can be wrong?
Ofir, very good to do this podcast with you. A few questions, feel free to ask me questions too, and then we'll go ahead. You have been working as a couple therapist for 15 years, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Something like that.
Yeah. What made you, and as of now, from my understanding, you do only couple work. Your main focus, your specialization is couple work. And
That's right.
one of the modalities that you follow is EFT, emotionally focused therapy. What made you choose that modality, and what made you choose being a couple therapist, to be a couple therapist? Because it's quite challenging. It's not easy.
I'm not going to argue with that point.
What made you choose to do something that is challenging in therapy, like taking a
Yeah.
challenging space in therapy, a specialization in therapy?
I don't think I've ever gone the easy route. So I think in that way, I was meant to do something that was challenging. Yeah, that's more about me in general. But there's a few questions embedded in there on why emotionally focused therapy, and then couples therapy for me, right?
Yes.
And I do want to highlight there are quite a few different things that have EFT as the acronym. And even one that sounds very similar. There's one called emotion-focused therapy and emotionally focused therapy. So we're talking specifically about emotionally focused therapy, which is Sue Johnson's modality.
Okay.
Emotion-focused therapy is Les Greenberg's. And he was her professor at UBC in the early 90s. And so they're actually collaborated for quite a while. And it was just an EFT, emotion-focused therapy. And he doesn't focus on couples work. She does. And so as they began to branch off, he kept his EFT, she kept hers, and they were still good friends. She passed, unfortunately, in April of 2024. He's still alive. He's much older than her, but he's still alive. That's how it goes. So why?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Why couples counseling is one question. I think the short answer of it is that, I went through a really challenging, very abusive relationship back in 2005. It was about a year and a half on and off for about 6-7 times. And when that relationship finally ended in December of that year, I just remember I'll just get back around a little bit. Before that relationship, I'd done one semester of undergrad. And I didn't like school. I wasn't a big fan of school just because of my experience in high school, the way it was structured. And I did do one semester of college in 2003. So now we're talking end of 2006. I remember in that semester taking the intro to psych class. I remember this is something that I really want to do, but there's no way, this is not practical. I was a go big or go home kind of person. And go big meant 8 to 10 years to become a psychologist.
You wanted to be a PhD, you wanted to take PhD and become a...
That's go big. Yeah. I just knew bachelor's wasn't enough. And I didn't even really know that you could work in kind of that in-between role. But even then, it would have been 6-7 years, right? Again, 6-7 comes out. Simulation theory. So to me, it wasn't practical. And then the dissertation idea and this kind of thing, it really scared me as well, because I'm not a writer and I didn't see myself as an academic. And I had this practical business on the side that I was running. So I was like, this is more practical. So I went that. But as soon as this relationship ended, I was like, whatever I was put on this earth to do has at least something to do with helping people in our dynamic or something like it. Like relationship work,
Mm.
people in the situation I was in individually. I was propelled to then finish school as soon as possible from a very practical sense.
So is it okay with
Of course.
what I'm hearing is that you were in a lot of pain when the relationship ended, and you used that pain as such to say that, you know what, I want to make sure that I am in a space where I can help people.
The pain was in the relationship. By the time the relationship actually ended, I was just like very motivated. Literally, it was January, I was back in Quantland doing my undergrad, and I just, whatever courses I could sign up to, I did. And I literally finished in 2 years, 2.5 years, my whole undergrad.
So even when you were doing your undergrad, you knew that I want to be a couple therapist, or I want to
Absolutely.
work. So
And
that's
that
the
really
focus
helped
you
me.
had.
So even all the courses I took the minimum amount of courses to finish because I knew the bachelor's is not going to give me, I knew I had to go to the next level. And so it didn't really matter. I knew that undergrad would just be theory. So I took 12 philosophy courses because philosophy is this course, so it's got the minimum amount of work to do outside of class.
Yeah.
Just as long as you're focused, I had a course that was 95% of the course was participation.
Oh wow.
It's called Life and Death. I remember it very well.
Life-
The whole book was like 100 pages.
So but that's because you had a focus. You knew what you wanted
right.
to be.
Yeah.
And then you went ahead and did your master's. You did your master's at Adelaide University, right?
That's right. Yeah, like as soon as I was done my undergrad,
Right, you did your master's.
master's, yeah.
And then in Adelaide University, as of now, they do Gottman and EFT, and I think a
Yeah.
different form of
Our
therapy too.
couples counseling course had Gottman, EFT, and Satir. So
Yes.
that's the 3 we covered.
And that's the 3 you covered.
The first one was EFT.
What made you then focus and zoom into EFT?
Honestly, my first client ever in my practicum, so January 2012, was a couple, completely by accident. And I was in the couples course at that time, and my supervisor didn't do couples work. And it was the first thing we learned, and that was my mentor through the manual was Sue Johnson. Reading her words as I'm scrambling just to figure out how do I work with this couple. I need answers. I can't really go to my supervisor.
She didn't know.
She didn't know, and yeah, I won't say anything negative about her, but yeah, like she just wasn't
That was not
able
her
to
area
go.
of focus.
It wasn't her area of focus, and so I needed to go somewhere. So there wasn't anything even on YouTube as far as like EFT, but there was this manual, the EFT manual. It was like the second edition, 2004. So many notes in it. Like I'd literally go through the pages in order to find one answer of like wherever I was struggling with, help me to answer this question. It was like I would go in blind into these couple sessions.
Yeah.
I think initially it was like, how do I become a mediator? How do I translate what one person, because in my head, I remember at the time, all I have to do is go, I know what you're saying, I'm going to relay it to you, and I know what you're saying, and I'm going to relay it to you.
That's how a lot of couple therapists do work who are not specialized with EFT. It's
Right.
relaying
That's
one
right.
information.
You're a translator.
You're
That's
I'm
right.
not sure if the clients want just that. If that's the case, they wouldn't need us.
It's not what they want, and it's not what works, because it's very much at the superficial language level, and it misses the heart. That's the key.
So it's almost as though you were destined to be a couple therapist because your first client was a couple, and that's in that space you kind of found out about EFT because as a way to help you navigate it, you found it helpful, and then you stuck with it.
The first client I had was supposed to be an individual. They ended up being a couple. I remember leaving that session. I'm like, this is what I was meant to do. At the crisis line, that helped me know I was meant to do this in a sense of being a therapist. But in that moment, I was like, this is it. I'm addicted. I feel amazing. And the way we received clients in our practicum was a lottery system. It's like, here, I have this client who wants it. And when it came to couples, boom, boom, I was always the first. And we had like 16 students. So we had to fight for our clients.
You got a majority of couples.
No one was allowed to see couples in the first 3 months.
You got it.
She allowed me to. I survived it, as she says, and I somehow was able to navigate. And that first couple, I ended up seeing them the whole 8 months of the practicum. I did well enough, I believe, for them to feel like they got some benefit to continue. Even with that initial just scrambling through the mud, just doing the translation, just trying to find what can I do next session as far as like skill building, like how do I do listening skills and expressing like skills from a calm place. If they can just learn how to hear each other when I'm not in the room, then they'll be fine.
to do it.
Absolutely.
How is EFT different from other modalities when it comes to couple work?
It's very different. In my clinical director role, I often go into this and I have to do it in a very short call. So I have to really distill it down to the difference between on the spectrum of very left brain psychoeducational to kind of more in the middle, like exercise, skill based modalities to then more experiential modalities on the right kind of brain side of
Mhm.
things. And yeah, it sits there, Satir and EFT sit there in this experiential place.
Mhm.
And experiential essentially means that what we're trying to do is have them be in the experience of the moment when their amygdala is activated, when all their defenses tell them that I need to protect myself,
Mm.
this is not safe, or my partner is triggering my abandonment and
Mhm.
I need to do something to get them back. Because when you really think about it, most couples, not all couples, but for the majority of the time, they don't have problems. It might be the 10%, at least initially, before their cycle gets big. 90% of the time, they're in a good place. It's the little cancer that starts 1% of the time, and then it becomes 5, and then it becomes 10, and
Then
then
it builds up.
exactly. Yeah. So I'm not after that, those elements that are going well. Like when they're on vacation and they don't have stress and they don't have kids yet and they're in like love, everything's going great. And then they start adding the stress, the moving in together, the difference of opinion, the should we have kids, should we not have kids,
Mm.
what happens when financial stressors come up, the in-laws, like them kids. Okay. And they haven't worked through all these things that, but more than even the external stressors, I want to really highlight that it's just old patterns of insecure attachment styles that then, as someone becomes attached, these old wounds start to come up in a relationship. And that's sort of the real cancer, not the external stressors. But people will blame, we don't have enough sex. It
Finances.
is the kids. It all happened since this moment in
Mm.
time. But in reality, when you look at the trajectory of someone's life, they're getting into the same relationship again and again and again,
Same kind of relationship.
the same dynamic, because that's a wound that has not healed yet. And so they're recreating their own old patterns,
Mm.
familiar patterns onto their current relationships.
Familiar patterns might not be healthiest, but that's what your psyche is used to. Feel safe.
Your program, that's your early environment, and that's what you unconsciously will create in your environment because that's what love is to you.
And so, from my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, EFT does help in the reprogramming of the psyche.
Absolutely. And the key thing to focus on is we're not reprogramming your mind, we're reprogramming your heart, which is sort of stored in your amygdala, if that makes sense.
One of the things that I often tell my clients when I'm doing psychoeducation is when they ask me, why is this triggering me? How come this is triggering me? And then we go to the childhood because I believe it was in one of the books written by Sue Johnson that she talks about it's not the people who are fighting, it's the childhood that is fighting against each other.
Right.
Right? I believe it's she who told that. And sometimes if there's a wound, if somebody touches that, that creates the pain. If I have a wound in my hand, you touch that, that's going to
Like,
be
it's not somebody touching it, it's someone close to you touching it.
somebody very close to you touching it.
Only someone that you attach to in a
Yeah.
very deep way. So it's
Somebody you
beyond
trust.
superficial friendship.
Mhm.
It has a deep friendship. The key to relationships that Sue highlights is when she says from the cradle to the grave is our parent-child relationship
Mhm.
and our adult romantic relationships. These are going to be the two biggest relationships in your life. And those are going to be the ones that we give the power to unconsciously to rub against those wounds.
And the parent child relationship can create a pattern which we can repeat as an adult in the romantic relationship.
And parent can be a foster parent, it could be an adoptive parent, it could be a step parent. Of course, it could be a biological parent, but it's whoever you're spending your early years around.
And if a child is being adopted out just because you said adopted parents, then a feeling of abandonment or anxiousness can come. Right? So that part is also there. Have you ever felt, my goodness, that couple, they need to split? I'm done.
It's not my job.
Side job.
It's not my job.
Yeah.
Be what I'm working on.
The relationship is your client.
That's correct.
and you're doing your best to save the relationship.
I'm doing what I'm trained to do.
But when things get intense, you look into what is causing it, not giving a suggestion that you can take a break or something along those lines.
I'm really focused on, you said you go to childhood and you're asking, I'm looking at what caused it. A lot of what I'm doing is I'm actually not focused on the why. I'm focused on what do we need to do in order to rectify it. So I'm always focused on what's my mission?
Mhm.
What am I trying to
Okay.
elicit to come into the surface
Mhm.
from the person that's in front of me?
Mhm.
Because I know that through experience, through the model, that what will create real change in the dynamic is moving them across this EFT map, emotionally focused therapy map. And in the early part of the map, steps 1, 2, and 3 is essentially getting them connected to their primary experience, meaning themselves. If I can get underneath all these veils, all these levels of protection, there is a very vulnerable, and I don't mean vulnerable in a bad way, I
Negative
mean in
way,
the
no.
best way possible. The real, I almost sometimes like to refer to it as the inner healer. Everyone has an inner healer to the degree that their true self was suppressed
Mm.
and not allowed to be, right?
Because of the situations they have been through.
Yeah.
How would an EFT session look? The first session.
Yeah.
You know, a couple is coming in.
It really depends. I mean, I can tell you what the model says, and I can tell you the first step is assessment
Mm.
and trying to understand the dynamic. Ultimately, it really depends on what's in front of me. If a couple comes in and they're fighting in the first session right in front of me because they had a fight, I'm not going to be taking them through assessment. More than anything, my job is to meet them exactly where they're at.
Okay.
And that means matching where they're at. It means reflecting to them what I'm seeing and then having them feel like I understand what is happening, not through saying I understand, but through showing them that I understand what it is that's happening. That's a very important distinction.
Can you repeat
I need them to understand that I can see and exactly understand what is happening. That gives me then permission to make them feel comfortable enough to go in the direction to connect to what is happening for them.
when you say connecting to what is happening for them, you mean the negative cycle that EFT talks about?
That's what's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's happening for them is while the cycle is happening, essentially, if you imagine like a figure 8 loop, this is a cycle. One person's behavior triggers the other person that then comes back to them in a way that then triggers them, and it goes on and on and on. There's no beginning, there's no end.
It gets intense.
There is an end as far as like there's a climax and a burst, and then some kind of reunification, right?
Mhm.
But then there's something that resets it over and over because there's no actual resolution, there's no actual sense of recovery or healing from it. And the cycle started before this relationship.
Yes.
And so that's why you get these kind of two sets of, to use a cooking analogy, these two sets of ingredients. Baking might be a good analogy. You put the one set of ingredients, everything they've ever learned in this particular moment in time, take this person, all their ingredients, you put them together, and what do you get? You get what they're destined to be together, right? Whatever chaos that is, you get it. And if they had a healthy childhood and this person a healthy childhood and both secure, you'll get the high school sweethearts that almost never fight and they're together until they're 90, and you ask them, what's your success for a great relationship?
And
Whatever bullshit answer they give, the actual answer is have a healthy childhood.
which is not in anyone's control.
Exactly.
Which is not in anyone's control.
Exactly.
Because if a person was born into a dysfunctional family, can have a concerning attachment style, and which they can bring into the
That's
relationship.
right. And my job is to move them from wherever they're at into a secure one.
Is it possible to have a secure attachment style? Or is it something that we just aim for that usually doesn't happen?
I'm going to answer that in two ways. So one is, yes, of course it's possible because the research says it is. The 73% of couples that go through EFT are secure by the end. And then 3 years later in a follow-up, they're still secure and they're actually more secure or doing better than when they left their last session. So it continues on. So that's 73% of cases. But the second part of that answer is mathematically, no. Because even people my example with old couple, there's no pure 100% secure. You can't go through life without any wounds. So no one's perfectly secure. If you have a scale, again, to use a spectrum analogy, let's say minus 100 is a insecure type that's like an avoidant, and plus 100 is an insecure type that's anxious to the extreme on both ends. You can say 0 is secure, but no one can perfectly be 0.
Yeah.
So you got 1 minus, and to really make it complicated, because, this is a long form conversation, it's not between minus 100 and plus 100. The other spectrum is, right, you had 2, let's say, primary attachment figures in your life.
Yeah.
Let's say with mom, you're plus 20, and with dad, you're plus 8.
Yeah.
Or, right?
Yeah.
And it's not as simple as you're the average of your 2 parents,
That's true.
right?
That's
You
true.
got certain triggers that you got from mom, you got certain triggers from dad, you got brother and sister,
School.
teachers, exactly. So we're not this like attachment system that's so simple. There's also different timelines. There's how you are before you start a relationship. As it starts, how do you attach is its own attachment system. Once you're in it, what are your trauma triggers around abandonment, about trust, that come in separate from your attachment system?
And then it created a concern.
It created a trust issue or what have you. Anything that's... So attachment is a word that is like trying to distill down this very complex system. How? Because you could be very secure with friends, but then in your close attachment relationships, your romantic one, you're not.
I have seen that a lot of people in the friendship, they have a very secure attachment, but the romantic spaces, a lot of toxic behaviors come up.
You could also see one person flip from anxious in the same relationship to an avoidant in the same relationship after one big event. No, or like a big attachment injury. After an affair, after an abandonment. You can also see, obviously, relationships change you from what, like all the learning you do after a relationship, you will hyper focus on not getting into a relationship like that, and then you'll swing to the other side of the pendulum.
And that is one thing I sometimes bring up in our individual sessions, that if a client has had a concerning relationship, then we focus on healing from that concerning relationship before getting into another relationship. That's but what you missed in one, you'll focus on the other. Like
that's good advice.
Talking about the word advice, let's start with that. At what point is a psychoeducation concerning? Like, we therapists, we take pride in saying we don't give advice. At what point in time, especially for the couple therapy, do we use psychoeducation? What kind of psychoeducation can we use? And once you answer that, I would like to show you a video.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Of course.
And for the audience, we will show it otherwise. Okay. So, yeah.
When is it concerning? I would say it rarely hurts, but it also rarely helps. Psychoeducation. Some clients, it can help in the outset if they don't know anything about what we're about to embark on and they have anxiety, and it will be helpful for them to know what it is that we're about to do. My stance is I give them the least amount to feel comfortable enough to start.
Least amount to know about the process?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But most couples actually, when you ask, like, what would you like to know about EFT before we start? They'll say, nothing really, like, we're ready to dive in. So I give them 30 seconds. The 30-second elevator pitch of EFT.
What is it? Can you give that?
It's an experiential model that's going to get you to a place where you feel comfortable enough to share your experience. If that goes well, when I get you to share it directly to your partner, that's called a corrective experience, which is what we're trying to always get. If we get enough corrective experiences, you'll be able to take it from here, and I'll be in the background and I won't be here anymore.
Like, you're kind of making sure that you get fired.
That's my job.
That's your job.
That's my job.
Let's go to the video.
Yeah. Let me add one more thing.
Yeah.
Where I call it more integration, but in EFT, the main intervention is called an enactment. A lot of interventions go into being able to do a successful enactment, but that's where we get them to turn to their partner and share their primary experience with their partner around a specific event, around a particular moment. When that goes well, my job's to really reflect what is it that they just did that made it go well, and to give them all the validation in the world, because I know how hard it is
To do that.
to do something that they haven't done before, or that the last time they did it, they were 5 and it didn't go well and they got punished for it. Because that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And where the psychoeducation comes in is I'm reflecting what they did, and I might expand on why I think it worked.
You're making it impactful.
Making it impactful. I want to highlight what they did, validate it, and almost always I'd rather have their partner do it than me. I might go, for example, so you were able to respond in the way that you did, and that made your partner feel like it made them feel relieved and empowered, right? But I might also ask them, what allowed you to do that in the way that you shared? Like right here, right now, what did she share that was different than how she normally shares that allowed you to respond in the way that you did? And I want to hear it from him. And then I might actually even pass that over and have him tell her that, for example, you shared your own experience. It was just about you. And that was really easy for him to hear. As opposed to,
You're the reason why all this.
yeah, you do X, Y, Z, and yeah.
The blaming.
Yeah. Much easier when you're focusing on your own experience. So is that psychoeducation? I don't know. It's a little different for me.
Let's go to the video.
Yeah.
Get into arguments, it's almost like we're breaking up. So then I cave every single time. I cave. Okay. Like, you're right. I'm sorry. It's always your way. It has to be your way. My opinions don't matter. Shouldn't we be focusing our energy on the beginning?
I think that's one way to possibly go. From my experience, it doesn't really work. And it doesn't matter who started.
I just feel like it does matter who started it.
It matters if you're in court. But it won't work if you apply it to your partner.
I know that whenever we get into arguments, it's almost like,
How does that sit with you?
Yeah.
A sweet couple.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it before. I've seen that whole season actually. And my question is, are you trying to convince their head, or are you trying to convince their heart? And that is her trying to convince their head. So sometimes you will get agreement, like I think in that second couple.
Yeah.
There was one that was like, oh yeah,
The third,
yeah. No, I think this is the right answer. And where are we going to get there, right?
Yeah.
Are we going to get a debate? And she's not wrong. Yes, like she makes a good point. In court, this is where it's important to be right or whatever.
To know who started.
To know who started. So she's
Factually.
right. Yeah, factually is correct. But what is she doing? What she's doing is actually that this is actually a big part of EFT. One of the most important thing is for both parts of the couple to not feel like I'm on either of their side. And the reason that's so important is in that moment, I'm guessing he felt like she wasn't on his side. Meaning, she's joining the cycle against him. So then now it becomes 2-on-1.
She's invalidating the experience and what one person believes in.
More insidious than that. It's a beginning of this cancer. If at any moment either of them get a sense that I'm not there for the relationship, they're now going to change their behavior, and their perception will be it's me against them, which is exactly where most cycles get started.
Yeah.
It's me against my partner.
And then the partner gets defensive.
Yeah.
Or
Defensive, offensive. In the battle of minds, there is more than one right answer. And in reality, either the world's flat or round, right? But we can debate about it. The world might not care, but both are right.
Yeah.
You had your experience and you had your experience. Here, it's win-lose when we have a debate. Here, it's either win-win or it's lose-lose.
It's not pitting against each other. You're talking about experience.
With experience, either we're both winning, we both feel heard, we both are expressing ourselves as we are, or we're not, and that means we're into our coping, into our protective strategies. Including this is essentially that. We call it secondary. with experience, we're trying to send the clearest signal possible. In an EFT, we call that primary experience or primary emotion. That's alive in real time in the room.
In the moment.
And anything other than that is a dirty signal. The depth of the emotion.
How clean the signal is in the depth of emotion.
That's right.
There's no faking that.
Even DiCaprio needs multiple takes to win an Oscar. How many times has he been nominated just to win one Oscar?
That's true. Yeah.
And even if you're the best actor in the world, or you have to be the best actor in the world to be able to fake this level of deep emotion. What do you think will move, to throw a question back, what do you think will help the relationship goals more? Tapping into this clear signal, or engaging them at the level where one person can be right and one person can be wrong? It's pretty clear to me.
Tapping into the emotions helps in the healing process. Helps, but we therapists or the couple therapists would become a point of reference. Like, okay, my therapist said that. My therapist agrees with me.
That's right. That's right.
And like you said, it's going to be the therapist in one partner against the other partner, and the other partner can feel not heard.
Even the perception of that.
The perception of that, yeah.
We always have them both in the room.
But the first session, you see them for 25 minutes just to understand the assessments and the attachment styles and everything. After that,
that's to get information and for me to see them, how they are individually before coming in together. There's a lot of good reasons. But once we're together, we don't ever split up. Or we run the risk of just that. It's not that we can't, but we're adding an extra risk that doesn't really need to be there.
Talking about risks, sometimes a partner can be physically abusive.
That's the other reason we meet individually first.
Physical abuse. Does EFT say that if a partner is physically abusive, the form of therapy might not work? Is that what it says?
EFT, from what I know, is the most depathologizing model out there. We try to understand what's going on. So when you say abuse, I want to know what that means.
When is it physical abuse?
If one person hits the other person and the other person hits them back, is that abuse? So it's really important to know, is it premeditated? Physical violence is not the only form of violence.
No.
So I'm really after putting the physical aside. Is what's happening coming out of the moment part of the secondary behaviors that arise, that indirect communication, which hitting is, as well as other things, name calling, condescension, avoidance, what have you. Is drinking, is that abuse to your own body? So the word abuse is actually not clear. It's not actually helpful. I'm more concerned with, is this arising out of things that are happening in the moment? Or is this a more premeditative pattern that's completely separate from this? To what degree is it this? To what degree is it this? Right? Because we don't work in black and white.
In black and white. Is there an interesting case with keeping all the confidentiality in place that you would like to share?
Any particular kind of interesting case? Because what might be interesting to me might not be interesting to someone else.
Someone that you found to be extremely challenging, a couple that you found to be extremely challenging, and then later you were like, okay. Where we, in EFT, we look into attachment styles too, right? And where somebody surprised you initially, you thought that was anxious attachment. And as you progress, you're like, oh, okay, that's how they were hiding it. It was avoidance.
That part's easier. I'm like usually spot on as far as attachment styles. What can surprise me is not the style, but the way where it flips in other scenarios. So usually we have a emotional cycle and we have a physical cycle, as in like a sexual cycle. They can be reversed.
Help me understand sexual cycle.
So if you've got a pursuer or an anxious attached person in the emotional cycle, and that's usually the woman, you might have a male pursuer that's pursuing for physical intimacy. Okay. The roles can be reversed sometimes about money. Who talks about money and things like this. But there's unique cases where sometimes there's very unique coping strategies. Usually this is where it gets more complex and it's not just an insecure type. There's a disorganized type of attachment. So like a fearful avoidant type of thing.
Disorganized.
That can be a lot more complicated.
Okay.
The most standard version is I'll let you in. As soon as you get close enough, I'll push you away. But the way in which it can get really confusing is what behaviors are you okay with and what behaviors are you not okay with in order to trigger that push. And so that's usually more unique to their specific trauma and not so black and white as far as attachment styles.
Okay.
Also can be interesting is when you have a male pursuer, that will usually include more physical, like cornering in a room, things like this that you wouldn't see with a female pursuer. So those are common. But male pursuers, because maybe it's in the minority and I only see them 20% of the time or so, maybe that's the reason there's differences. But I think more there's just a lot of differences in how they present. Whereas when it's a female pursuer, it's like my cookie cutter type of, for lack of a better word. Can you remind me of the first part of the question?
An interesting,
Case, yeah.
where initially you were like, it's a challenge, but later a challenging case, which was interesting.
What I run into a lot that is really rewarding is the tougher the defenses, the more satisfying when it breaks. Yeah, in a good way. Because the more layers of abstraction that someone puts in order to protect themselves, and I'm not even talking from my perspective in terms of the fulfillment. I'm talking more even about how grateful they are for coming in, because it took so much work for both of us to get them to a place where they can actually be themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's just such a profound shift for them, which actually logically makes sense. Like the more someone comes in, like my wife is dragging me, I don't want to be here, this doesn't work, this is bullshit. Sometimes I see it in like really old males. Like I'm working with a 70-something-year-old male, never done therapy in his whole life. I know everything. This isn't going to work. Qualified me in the first session, 20 minutes of questions. This is like not even a month ago. 20 minutes of questioning me about my life experience. Do I know who the Prime Minister is of Canada?
Oh.
Who's the most famous Canadian that you agree with?
Oh.
It took his wife chiming in, like, how does this even matter what his beliefs, political beliefs are? Like what my political beliefs are.
So it is for him to feel safe.
To feel like we're aligned, I think, morally or something like that. But if we're not aligned morally, it doesn't mean I can't help you, because it's not me, it's the process. It's how much am I engaged in the process and how much are you able to engage in the process, right? I'm giving you something that is validated, that I know works, but to the extent that we plug into it is the extent that we're going to get the changes that we're looking for.
That's a very interesting case. A lot of clients do have a concern that the therapists are leaning into a particular political ideology, and they find it very challenging to come in for sessions. They feel that the therapist as such would bring in their political ideologies and thought processes into the session.
Hey, if you don't believe what I believe, maybe you'll take her side.
And
Right?
I'll be cornered.
Yeah. Or this is going to be really vulnerable. I don't want to do this. I'd rather qualify you and do this and this to avoid what we're here to talk about, what we're here to do. I'm happy to answer their questions. It's their time. But if they want change,
They got to engage.
They have to engage. And are you willing to try this thing?
Yeah.
Hey, at the end of a session, if you go, this isn't working for me, absolutely, by all means.
But that has not.
If we're spending 20 minutes just doing this, you're not going to get anything out of it.
Probably they do feel safe.
I think it was helpful for him. Absolutely. I definitely think that I'm okay using that time. But at some point, we pivot to what we're here to discuss.
I've had such situations with individual clients where they were in the initial, but it would be a phone consultation where they will probe into, what do you believe in? What is this? What is that? Like, at the end of the day, I tell them, it's not about what I believe or what you believe, it's about the process.
Yeah, and another way to handle that I like is, hey, you want to know if I can help you? So you're asking these questions.
I appreciate it.
I'm glad that you're doing your due diligence and you're skeptical. I would be too.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anything I'm going to answer you is going to make you feel comfortable enough. But what I can tell you from experience is that after we spend some time together, I'm very confident this approach and my ability to put everything into it,
Mhm.
that you'll get what you're looking for out of it. But you have to try.
Yeah.
If you don't try, you'll never know.
It is experiential.
That's right.
In individual therapy, I usually divide it into 3 segments.
Do you know what Sue Johnson says
What did you say?
when someone challenges her?
Uh-huh.
Like a good famous example is wife comes to her and she says, I want you to change X, Y, and Z about my husband.
Uh-huh.
And Sue goes, if I had a magic wand, that would be amazing. The problem is that what you're asking me to do, I don't know if it's possible, but that's not what I do. That's not what EFT is about. What I can do is I can walk you through a process that if both of you engage, I think will get you the results you're looking for.
Yeah.
And if you both do, I strongly believe you'll get what you want.
Yeah.
But I can't just change your husband and
one
that's it. Yeah, it doesn't work that way because it's a system. Both of you are contributing to the system.
To be very open with you, only EFT focuses on to that extent. There are a lot of such videos going around in YouTube.
I think people change in the process, but yeah, the way to enact change is not through focusing on the other person.
Yeah.
I see transformational change. When people focus on the relationship changes, and that has to change each individual. By definition, you can't change the dynamic without changing who you are. The question is, what is change? When people take emotional risks, not the bad risks that we talked about. Now, taking emotional risks, or any kind of risk for that matter, the analogy is if you want to overcome your fear of heights, you can read every book in the world about overcoming fear of heights. Your body's not going to believe it. It doesn't matter how many times I watch Tom Cruise hang off the side of an airplane.
Yeah.
I will never know how to do that.
No.
If I ever wanted to, though, I have to start with confronting my fear of heights. If that goes well, that first exposure, I'll feel good. I'll go to a higher height.
Engage more.
And then over time, my fear of heights is lessened. Maybe so much so that I don't feel like I have a fear of heights anymore. And so your body has changed in that you're comfortable now looking down from a high altitude. That's all that's happening. We're not actually changing. We're confronting the wounds that we talked about earlier.
The pains.
And exposing them to a partner that is close to us when we have a prior experience that doing that resulted in a lot of pain. That's the trauma. The trauma is, I learned I will never do this again. So by doing it, you invariably change. If it goes well, we're correcting for these experiences. If it doesn't go well, we're just reactivating these experiences, and then we go back to our bubble and we go, I'm never going to do this again. But if we do it and we start small, really small baby steps, those baby steps cumulatively add up to getting back to that moment before you had fear, right? Because as babies, we have no fear.
Yeah.
We poop our pants, we cry. No one says, I'm scared to cry.
Yeah.
Security that our caregivers will take care of us.
Yeah.
And if they don't,
now fear set in.
Now we learn, don't do that thing again. And our little baby brains or 5-year-old brains don't understand mom and dad were too busy, right? They came from trauma and they're like, they can't. And so all that can be done is an imprint of don't do that again with the narrative of I'm bad, I'm problem, whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's change to me, but it's inside out. It's not whatever I need you to change XYZ behavior. It doesn't work that way.
And if therapists engage in those behaviors, would you say that they're causing the clients to always rely on them?
Which behaviors are we talking about?
Whereas they're focusing only on the surface.
That they're relying on the therapist?
Yeah, the therapist is creating a space where therapist is giving solution, telling them to do this, do that.
Yeah, we don't want to form a dependency Because then again, if it works, it's great. Then we go back to the source. If it doesn't work, I blame the source.
Yeah.
You're the reason it didn't work.
Yeah.
And you can't have the therapist in your ear 24 hours a day, right?
No. And as my therapist said, go there.
Very good point.
For individual therapy, we have 3 phases. One is the scaffolding and scaffolding phase. The next one is the trauma, where we go in depth, your childhood, everything. And the last one is resilience building. Okay.
The model is 9 steps and 3 stages. Stage 1 is called de-escalation. Stage 2 is called restructuring the bond. And stage 3 is essentially like revisiting old conversations. So yes, there's steps. There's kind of 3 steps in stage 1, 3 in step 2 with both partners, and then 2 steps, stage 3. We kind of like stay in stage 1 and we're going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then like 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4 until they're ready. And then we go 5, 6, 7 with one, 5, 6, 7 with the other. And then we might do that once or twice. And then we don't always even need stage 3.
Overall, how many sessions does it usually take?
In the
It's a
research,
complex question.
in the research for non-trauma bonds, it was 8 to 12.
8 to 12.
And then the deeper the trauma, the more entrenched, the more. But I have some couples that I've seen over 100 sessions. I've got some couples that I've seen 5 sessions. I have a couple I've seen once. I have a couple of couples that I've seen once, and they're great.
And they're doing well.
And they came back to me 6 months later, and they're like, that was the best session. That's all we needed. So it depends, right? It depends where they're at.
Yeah.
The process is always the same.
So if the trauma is intense, more sessions. Average is 8 to 12.
That's right. A lot of it comes down to pacing. I can go, if they're ready, we can go right to the end or right to the depth. And stage 2 is not always necessary, and stage 3 is often not necessary.
All right. Thank you so much, Ofir. We'll join again to talk more of EFT and other aspects. Is there anything that you want to tell the audience?
Look out for my new show, Get Effed, in the next few months, and I hope to see you there.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Yeah. I thought you were keeping it in wraps. I didn't want to bring it up.
It is in wraps, yeah. We're just working on a show where it'll be real couples, where people will actually get to see the things I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever fully convey what experiential means.
Yeah.
I think seeing a couple in action in real time and how we work with them is the closest thing to it. So I'm really hoping that people can identify themselves in the couples that we pick. We're going to try to pick couples that are very generalizable, but also different. And I hope people can just see themselves in one of the couples. And if they do, they can take away the things that we're doing with the couple, then maybe they can take that into their own relationships. And if it's scary to do, then they can find an EFT therapist near them. I definitely recommend, if possible, to do in-person work as opposed to remote, but that's not always possible. And for some people, as long as the client, the couple, is far enough away from the screen where I can see both of them, we could do good work online as well. As long as the video connection is clear and kind of the bandwidth is high enough, sound is good enough, we can. I always say bad EFT, to your question about comparing it to other models, bad EFT is better than no EFT. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, bad EFT is better than no EFT.
Yes. Or some other, leaving people to their own devices. Or like you said, I get quite a few couples that I get quite sad, but also very hopeful, I guess maybe is the word. When I see couples come in, they've had a really bad experience with a couples therapist, and they're still there. They're still there. Maybe they told them, you guys shouldn't be together. You guys need a lot of individual work before you start couples. I hear that a lot. Or ones where they actually worked with them for quite a while and they gave them advice, or they just told them that they're not suited for couples counseling or what have you, right? So I get pretty sad where I'm sort of gleaning that it was the therapist and the couple was not the problem.
And in spite of that, they came in for another form of therapy. That shows the love they have for each other. They somehow want to make it work.
That's the hopeful, gratitude for their attachment.
Yeah.
That they're basically went against the advice of the therapist and sought out another therapist. But I get sad because it's they came in really needing support and they left feeling like we're the problem, that can't be solved. Yeah, this professional expert is telling me like it's us. And I think the majority of the time it's just therapists not being willing to own that something is just above their head or too difficult at this time. They're not ready. They're not the ones that are not ready to work with a couple.
Yeah.
Not that the client is not ready for therapy, but they're not ready to work with this particular couple.
The client is not the problem. And that's an important aspect. If your relationship, you go to a relationship counseling and you find it challenging and you find that the couple counseling is not working for you, you're not the problem. That is an important aspect that I would like the audience to know
Absolutely.
too. You probably would have to find an EFT therapist.
EFT therapist.
And also when the show comes, and for the interns and the upcoming counselors, and also for all the counselors, when the show comes, I think it would also be an educational aspect.
Absolutely.
It'll be an educational aspect for them too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Entertaining, educational, and therapeutic, I hope, for people to start to see like therapy isn't this big scary thing.
Desensitizing to it.
What's that?
Desensitizing to that.
Desensitizing. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of myths out there, I think, for couples counseling. Not all therapy is the same. And there's not great therapists out there, like any profession. But then there's people that really do this because they love it. And I certainly do. And yeah, like you said, my job's to work myself out of a job. And if there's any absolutes out there, like to reiterate your point, to highlight it, to really emphatically emphasize it, I don't believe in a lot of black and white or a lot of, absolutes. But one I can say is that your relationship is not the problem.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get help, keep looking for someone that can help you. I strongly believe in EFT, or at least experiential models like EFT. Just make sure, even if you're going to see an EFT therapist, try to find one that's either certified or that's gone through the externship through ICEFT.
Yes.
So not, knockoff courses, but real trainers that have gone through the whole certification process, that they've been supervisors for 5+ years, and then that they become trainers. It's a really good model, where to be a trainer of EFT, you have to have at least 10 years of experience.
Working just with the couple.
Just with EFT specifically. Yeah, it's like at least 3 years to get certified, I think. And then it's at least another 5 years to be a supervisor.
Yeah.
And then it's another 5 years to be a trainer. So it's like 13 years at least to be a trainer. So go to a real EFT trainer. I'm not a trainer, definitely.
You're not a supervisor.
I'm a supervisor. I supervise people that implement EFT, but I'm not like an EFT. And by EFT supervisor just means that if you go to an EFT supervisor, that will allow you to become certified. So that's the key. You have to have at least 10 hours of supervision from an EFT supervisor to become certified yourself. So anyways, find a qualified EFT therapist.
And the ICE EFT that you're talking about, that is an international certification for emotionally focused.
Worldwide organization.
Worldwide.
Yeah, it'll tell you wherever you are in the world, even in China. Like there's an ICEFT center. There's one in here in Vancouver. There's one on the island. Basically, every province or state has at least one. Every major city, I believe, in North America has at least one center or at least one certified trainer. Although I definitely recommend doing the in-person level 1 and 2 training.
Right. Thank you, Ofir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the next one.
We will meet again.